I was doing. Because I didn't see myself 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road.
Yeah, and be like, what is it that I'll be doing? Yeah.
I was not going to solve double integrals and draw ears for people and feel like, this is what I learned just also very good.
It's my beautiful integral.
And then we got to 4th year and we got to Actuarial Risk Management, and it just put everything so beautifully into context.
I know.
And I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to be a business professional. I'm going to solve business problems.
Yeah.
So use the skills, use the maths, use the stats to address actual business problems.
Yeah.
Make people's lives better through developing insurance products and making sure our shareholders are happy.
Yes. Yeah. I think that to me was also the first time where I was like, oh, this is what being an actuary is. I have these skills and yet I have to understand this environment and interact within it. And that was the first time I think I actually wanted to be an actuary, because I was like, oh, I understand. Okay, I could be this.
Yeah.
And I wish I had that earlier. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing the podcast is I want people to see, it's difficult to see, but I want them to have an inkling of what that sort of later picture is. But one of the key things in ARM is the concept or the flow chart, if you want to call it that, of the Actuarial Control Cycle. We've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but I just wanted us to speak to those 5 sort of key parts of that cycle and why that's sort of important to note, and also, important to sort of see actuaries within that kind of hue, if you want to call it that. So do you want to speak to those?
Yeah, so the beauty of the Actuarial Control Cycle lies in its simplicity.
Yeah, I agree.
That's that you can apply it to any sort of situation, to solve any problem, and to just give you a structure to think through what is it that you need to consider and take into account at solving the problems. So it's a simple 3-step process of identifying the problem. What is the need?
Yeah.
What are the issues? What are the challenges?
Yeah.
Then figuring out a way, how can we address this?
Yeah.
So the people we need to address this, what are the technology we need to address this? And then to see, okay, we've done now all this work, we've involved all these people. Is it doing what we expected it to do? Is that problem solved, or are there more problems that we need to solve?
No problem.
Hopefully.
Sometimes we do.
There's enough problems.
That I say back.
Yeah, we try not to create more, but we try in a whole process that is iterative to solve these problems and make the world a better place. And then surrounding the simple 3-step process, like I'm really oversimplifying it, but that's essentially what it is our context or environment in which we solve these problems.
Yeah.
And the people for whom we solve these problems.
Yeah.
So this is anything from the competitive environment, the economic environment, and all the people and challenges within that.
Yeah.
And then as actuaries, of course, it's fundamentally important that what we do ethically with integrity and being a professional.
Yeah.
So it's so simple, but so perfect, and it encompasses what actuaries are, what they do, and how they do it.
Yeah, I think that's such a simplistic but also sort of succinct way of putting it, in that it's effectively saying, like I always say to my students, is a triangle within a circle. The triangle is what we do as actuaries, the identify, solve, and monitor. And those are sort of the vertices of that triangle. But that triangle lies with the circumference of a circle, and that circle is the environment and professionalism. And you don't know how you function. You don't know where that triangle sits until you understand where that circle sits, because your environment informs everything. And I think that's what I liked about ARM, is I was like, we never had the environment. Yeah. We were just focusing on the skills in the first 3 years of study. And then it was like, okay, now you use those skills within this context. And that was a very useful skill to learn.
Exactly. And I heard an interesting quote the other day. Nothing is ever easy. So it doesn't matter how much you try to simplify.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing is ever easy.
But one thing that's important with the Actuarial Control Cycle, which I only still realized post-qualifying, is that all the subjects after ARM, so like your F100s and your F200s, they're all structured around the Actuarial Control Cycle. So if you bed that down well, when you're at an honors or 4th year level, it really helps you towards qualifying. And I think when I was teaching it, it kind of hit me, and I was like, oh, actually you need to understand this, because all questions are framed within that.
Exactly.
You know, and so from an exam technique perspective, it's also very helpful.
Yeah. So what I like to tell students when they're preparing for these later exams is to take the contents page that says what is in which chapter, and go put it in the framework of the Actuarial Control Cycle.
Yeah.
Then after that, go pull up all the chapter summaries, read through them, and then go and immerse yourself in the detail of the content. And then, so doing that top-down approach, it answers a lot of questions, it contextualizes a lot for you.
Also connects, right? It's kind of, you see how, like, you price, but then you have to monitor, which means that, like, maybe your pricing assumptions are incorrect, and therefore you need to relook at the issue. And like this, it's all interconnected. It's not just you price and it's done. Yeah. Kind of thing. Oh, that'd be wonderful if that was the case. I don't think actuaries would have actuaries would sort of lose a lot of their jobs if pricing was a one-off. But I think it's a very useful framework. And yet, in saying that, what are some of the issues you've seen in ARM that sort of students continually struggle with in mastering the content?
Yeah, so I think a large part of the issues is resistance to change.
They're like one the stats.
Yeah, we're used to doing something this way, and it worked for us this way for years. Why are you coming to disrupt us now? With theory and specific ways of answering questions, specific way of reading and interpreting, which we've never had to do before.
Yeah.
And as soon as the students let go of that resistance and embrace RM for what it is, it's like a light bulb goes on and the smiles return.
I think it is a difficult one though to wrap your head around. And as you said, there's so much content, and I think students are often so focused on just learning the content, with all the acronyms and that sort of thing. And yet that's not what gets you to a space where you will be at the exemption level, because you need to interconnect what you do, right?
So and just by the nature of it, the way we teach it, so we try to explain how everything is interconnected, see how pricing ties in with the environment, because you need to consider the customer, the cycle in which we are in. Will this work? Is this product going to be demanded? Will they demand it at this price or not? But how we teach is we teach chapter 1, then we teach chapter 2. Yeah. And I think that just reinforces that silo.
It's side of it,
That's how the students approach this course often. Yeah. Instead of integrating it into, I can now see how this product design chapter links in with pricing, with ADM.
And I think sometimes that only comes at the end of the course, right? Because they haven't covered all the content yet. So you don't necessarily see all the connections until you have sort of spent a lot of time in the notes.
Yeah, and experienced a lot of tears. It's a process, got some negative test feedback. But it is like a puzzle. So you have to start with the outline pieces. Yeah. And then you start getting an idea of what the picture's going to look like. Yeah. And then you go sort out your colors all together, and then you get your puzzle together. Yeah. And until you place that final piece, which normally, as you say, it comes at the end. Yeah. And everything makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing you spoke about in the Actuarial Control Cycle, which I would like to sort of just touch on briefly, was the concept of ethics. So how would you sort of define that, and why is it important as an actuary? I mean, ethics is something I think most people have a vague understanding of. Well, hopefully more than vague. But what does that mean specifically for actuaries in the workplace and in the spaces that they sort of interact?
Yeah, so again, the concept of ethics is on the surface of it extremely simple. Yeah. It's right versus wrong, and that's what we've been taught from a very, very young age. Yeah. No, don't do that, or can't treat people like that. Yeah. This is right, this is wrong, and why not? And that gets embedded in us. But then as you grow older and you meet to adult and a little bit more complicated situations present themselves, you realize like ethics is not necessarily quite so simple, so black and white. There's a lot of interconnected parts. There's a lot of conflicts in the system. What's good for one is not necessarily good for others.
It often comes down to stakeholders. Often when it comes to ethics, just vying sort of objectives between different parties.
Yeah, and then where that the actuary in this conflict is the one that needs to often make the decision. This is what I'm going to recommend. This is why, and be able to justify that and act in the interest of their clients and all the stakeholders.
Yeah,
and I think that's where it often becomes way more complicated than we actually realize it is. So, in just where I'm sitting as a lecturer, I obviously want to see everyone doing really well, passing, getting grades and shoes, being successful.
Yeah.
That's what I really, really want.
Yeah.
But there's standards to maintain.
Yeah.
There's the stakeholders beyond university that are
how do to employing our graduates, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I have to sit with students in tiers in my office, which is like for me one of the most gut-wrenching experiences. But because of the downstream effects and the needs of all the stakeholders and just our country and the world in general, it's the right thing. Yeah. Even though it feels so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like the humanity in you just wants to be like, no, it's fine, I'll just pass you. but you can't. I mean, that's it. But I guess also a professionalism, right? And a big part of becoming an actuary is that code of conduct, and part of that is protecting the profession.
Exactly.
And I think as a lecturer, something I'm coming to realize is that we do that on the front lines in some ways, because we're the ones who are teaching and passing and accrediting students to go into the workplace. And that's a massive sort of promise that we make to other stakeholders that this person is competent. And we need to make sure that we uphold that.
Yeah, and I don't think I realized this when I was a student. Now, it was very easy to say, the lecturers are mean.
Yeah, they don't care about it, and
But now, like on the other side, so I can understand where the students come from. I was there, but now I realize the gravity and the importance of the role we play as gatekeepers to the profession and ensuring the skills and the quality of graduates that you produce.
Yeah, insane.
And it's amazing to see the work that our graduates and students.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the student way outpasses or passes the lecturer in many cases when they do these phenomenal things, which is fantastic. I mean, you wanted out. There we go. I was trying to say that. I was like, come on, Mangi, where's your words today? Come on. Anyways, might have to edit that out. My ninth question for today would be, what would be a piece of advice you would give to your younger self in pursuing your actuarial journey, or to reframe that, a piece of advice you would give to sort of a matric / first year as they start their journey towards becoming an actuary?
Sure. So one thing, and I see this a lot, is students tend to give up everything in pursuit of actuarial science.
Yeah.
Like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Have fun. Do fun things. Ensure that you have a balanced and quality life. I think that's one of the main reasons I stuck with that. Because if I had just studied all the time and did not...
It was the holidays, hey, Pieter.
It was the holiday. The holidays were time for reflection. It's like this is okay. I can do one more year of life series and monk of chance. But remember to have fun. I think it's easy to be so fixated on one thing and on one goal that life passes you by, and your late teens, early 20s is really the best time of your life.
It's not like you look this like old Gandalf. Those are the best years of my life.
Yeah, I think in 5 years I'm going to say your early 30s. And that you're not alone in this. Don't try go at it alone.
Yeah.
Make friends. I know you are all introverts.
I'm not. Not close.
Yeah, so if it wasn't for my friends and connections and networks, I wouldn't have made the journey.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my energy from, my will to continue, and they're also a lot of source of fun.
Yeah, and past papers. And helping you with that question.